not sure. I'll have to go check that. I can't remember.
Can you have ice cream?
People that know me tend to say, where do you get all the time from? And I usually say, well, I have 24 hours. How much do you have? That's a pretty obnoxious thing to say. I should stop that. But anyway, the time we have is the same for everyone. It's a fixed resource. That means we can't do much about it except sleeping less. But what if I told you that you could do more than you do right now without working more hours? So I have a list of items we need to do before we sell the house. And right now it's summer and we want to take photos of the house during the summer rather than taking them during the winter. It looks a bit better during the summer. So here's the list I have for this time. I need to make a gate for the entrance and paint it. And we also need to make a window for the kids' treehouse and paint the entire kids' treehouse. So let's get started with the gate. I wanted to make this as cheap as possible. Material-wise, we got some 2x2s for the frame and cladding for the fence of the gate. I made a rough drawing of a gate that would fit in between the posts of the current arch entrance we have. So the first thing I did was to start making the frame. Usually with these types of gates you make a Z-shaped frame, and it's important in what way you do the Z, because the part crossing from the bottom to the top needs to point upwards and towards the center. That way it adds strength to the middle of the gate as the force downwards is led through that part. In this case I have a gate with 2 doors, so I'm making 2 frames, 1 for each door. And to make this even stronger, I decided to jack out a little piece, so I marked the location and jacked out that with the bandsaw. That also means I don't have to cut anything in angles. Once one piece was done, I could go ahead and replicate that for the other frame. When I had all my pieces for the frame, I could go ahead and glue and screw the frame together and leave that to dry while I go ahead and work on the fence. I had all the pieces for the fence cut on the table saw. Most of the pieces are 5 centimeters wide, but the ones at the end of each door is around 7 centimeters wide. The quality of the cladding isn't the best, but for a fence it works just fine. To cut the pieces to length, I also used the table saw with a crosscut sled. Why didn't you use the miter saw, you might wonder? Well, my brother decided to do a long-term loan of my miter saw, so I guess it's on him. It would have been a lot faster on the miter saw, but it got the job done. The fence pieces aren't equally long, so I made sure to mark them to make it easier on myself later on. The cladding has one side that is kind of planed and one side that is really rough. So to get rid of the rough side, I decided to plane it down. So I just passed all the pieces once through the planer. The pieces in the middle and the ones at the end are somewhat custom, so I printed the design on paper to be able to easily trace it onto the wood. This is a definitive upside of having the design drawn up in the computer. I'll have this design uploaded if you want to use it, but it has to be adapted to the size of your opening, of course. I had them cut out with a scissor and taped onto the fence pieces, and I could go ahead and cut them on the bandsaw. The rest of the pieces are rounded at the top to prevent the rain from lying on the end grain, and I did that the same way with all of those pieces. Once I had all my pieces, I coated them with an oil-based primer, and then my wife painted them white. And then we could go ahead and assemble it all to the frame. When attaching pieces like this, I like to use something straight to mark out where to drive the screws in beforehand, just so that I know they all line up. I attached the hinges and it was ready for attaching to the posts. We'll get back to that later. The list of things to do around the house just keeps growing over time, and some of the things on that list we have to do every day. We cook, we clean, we do the dishes, and we at least try to have a conversation about the things that we have to do. I wrote down a list of stuff to do. She has dentist next week.
Can you have ice cream?
No, not now. I'll try to fix that. Stop asking about ice cream.
And she has a recital on Sunday, the same time as soccer practice, so we need to see if we can get a couple of days.
Yeah. I can ask my mom.
Did you take those?
Can you have ice cream?
I'm not sure. I need to check that.
Have ice cream?
Have you seen my gray jacket anywhere? I can't find it.
Maybe in the basement.
Alright.
Yeah, so it's there.
Can you have ice cream?
But
No ice cream for you in this.
the chair broke down today.
Oh no.
Fix that.
All right.
Can you do that?
Yeah, sure. I'll get to it. For the dinner, we haven't. She bit me. We haven't figured out dinner yet. So that's this week, I guess. Is that all of it? After I had posted my first video to YouTube, I sat down with my wife and we talked about it. I told her that I would love to pursue this thing. I wanted to make projects, record them, and put them online. And she was very supportive of that, but I also told her that it will take a lot of time and I have no idea if it will ever create an income. But she agreed that if I really love doing it, then we will make it work. So instead of letting it turn into some kind of dispute, sit down with your partner, have a discussion on how you can solve the time management. Find out what is best for you. And chances are that you don't have the same energy peak performance periods, and figuring that out could actually help you a lot. I'll get to that later, but for now, let's continue with the list. For the windows, I'm using the same material as I used for the gate, cladding. I had the pieces cut to size using the circular saw because, my brother's stealing my miter saw. I should say, this isn't how windows normally are made, I know that. We built this treehouse for the kids last season, but we never got around to fit windows in. Instead of trying to find windows that would fit secondhand, we decided to use acrylic. And to fit the pieces, I just added more cladding to fill up the windows. Once the windows are attached, we're going to paint the entire treehouse green to blend it in a bit better. I had the acrylic cut to size on the table saw. It's no problem with a regular blade, but there are special blades for acrylic if you're going to cut a lot of it. For the next step, I decided to involve the kids in the making. It is their treehouse. We started by removing the safety tape from the acrylic. Then we drilled holes through the acrylic and the cladding to be able to screw them together with machine screws and nuts. This way we don't have to do anything special about it, but it will look a lot better and close the treehouse up. After one window was added, we went ahead with the next one. Lastly, I decided to add some framing to the windows to make it look a bit better and more in tune with our house. And the big takeaway from making these windows was, don't be afraid to involve the kids. And that is a perfect tip for managing the time as a parent. They don't necessarily need to help with woodworking, but there are other chores that the kids can do as well. And if they help, you will get more time for fun stuff together later on. And also, it's fun when you can do stuff together. So how can you do more things without time management? For starters, you need to know when your peak performance hours are. For me, it's in the morning and until lunchtime. Fortunately for us, my wife is not the same as me. Her peak performance hours are not until after lunch. So naturally, we can use this to manage our time. The next thing you want to do is to separate the chores on your list between those that require high energy and those that don't. In my case, some of the high energy things that I do are the things I do right now, for instance, recording video or making stuff. And some of the low energy chores are like cooking food, doing the dishes, stuff like that, which don't require a lot of energy. So in our case, I can do my high energy chores during my peak performance hours, and then we can swap. And that is how you optimize the day a bit more than just trying to use more of the awakened time. We all have the same amount of time, and as a parent, it's really hard to try to do more of that time. But optimizing it, that's something that can help a fair bit. So if you find that you don't have enough time, talk with your partner, figure out if you can make it work, involve the kids if possible. It can actually enrich both of you and them. And finally, optimize your time. The gate and the window to the treehouse is finished. We still need to paint the treehouse and continue on our list. But for now, we are one step closer to selling the house. There's so much to do all the time, and we all battle the time we have. Our goal is to sell our house and eventually work less. If you want to follow that journey, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.